History is absolutely littered with fallen empires. Power changes hands, leaders come and go, and technology completely rewrites the rules. Yet somehow, despite all that historical gravity pulling everything else down, the US dollar stubbornly stays right at the undisputed center of global finance.
It's kind of the core mystery of the modern economy, right? How has this one single currency survived decades of wild technological disruption, devastating wars, and massive geopolitical shifts? I mean, if it gained all its muscle in a totally different era, why does it still have this absolute iron grip on the world today?
Well, the answer is actually hidden in a system that most people, frankly, never even think about. A system that quietly touches almost everything we buy. In this explainer, we're going to peel back the layers of this onion. Because dollar dominance, it's not just a product of political power or, international affection. It's this quiet, hidden financial matrix that literally dictates the price of your groceries, the gas in your car, and the overall stability of your investments. Let's start with layer 1, the oil connection. Imagine for a second you're running an entire country. Your factories and your transportation systems desperately need oil just to survive. But here's the catch. Almost all of the world's oil is priced in someone else's currency, the US dollar. This is what we call the petrodollar effect. So country A sells oil to country B, but the transaction, it has to happen in dollars. Before any nation can secure the energy it desperately needs just to keep the lights on, it literally has to go out and secure dollars first. So even countries with absolutely zero economic or political ties to America suddenly find themselves needing dollars simply because they need energy.
And that creates this constant, inescapable global demand. This cycle repeats millions of times every single day. Banks process dollars, markets track dollars, governments hoard dollars just to make sure they can meet their energy needs tomorrow. A lot of people just assume the dollar's dominance comes from politics alone. But honestly, it's heavily reinforced by the raw, basic necessity of global trade.
Which brings us to layer 2, the banking highway. Think of international trade as this giant, incredibly complex physical highway. Ships are moving products, banks are processing payments, and almost all of that infrastructure is paved using dollar-based systems. When foreign companies trade with each other, dollars just become the common language. And again, it's not because they all deeply love America. It's the default setting on the global machine.
So what happens is you get this massive, self-feeding psychological loop. Trust creates usage, and usage creates trust. Investors trust the dollar because everyone uses it, right? And everyone uses it because investors trust it. Governments hold it because markets trust it. This loop has been running on autopilot for generations. Trying to change this system now would be incredibly expensive, highly complicated, and dangerously risky. And if there's one thing we know for sure, it's that markets absolutely hate uncertainty.
And that leads right into layer 3, the safe place during fear.
To really grasp this, we can look at the IMF's 2026 Economic Report on Foreign Exchange. It highlights this really profound paradox in human psychology regarding the safe haven asset. The US dollar index, or DXY, is kind of the ultimate example here. Whenever the world faces a massive geopolitical shock, a war, or just a slowing global economy, investors do something that seems highly counterintuitive.
Just look at this summary from Investing.com in Q1 of 2026. As tensions escalated and global risk appetite weakened, investors actually actively unwound their positions in other assets, like emerging market equities, and rushed all their money straight into dollar-denominated assets. In moments of pure panic, people move their money into the very system they already know, because uncertainty makes familiarity incredibly valuable, which means the dollar actually strengthens during, and honestly, often especially during global crises. So, the absolutely crucial takeaway here is this. America issues the currency the world already wants. And that creates an enormous, totally hidden financial advantage. While other nations are out there scrambling for foreign currencies just to keep their global trade afloat, America has the extraordinary flexibility to run massive deficits, dictate global sanctions, and operate completely differently without crashing its own economy. All right, moving on to layer 4, the digital challengers.
Look, we constantly hear about the obvious competitors, right? The euro, the Chinese yuan, gold, and, of course, cryptocurrencies. But here is the reality check. The challenge isn't creating a new currency. The real challenge is moving the entire global financial system. It's like trying to physically relocate a major city. Sure, you could build a technologically superior city somewhere else, but convincing billions of people and millions of businesses to pack up their entire lives and move? Yeah, that's an entirely different story.
Yet we have seen a massive shift materialize. $300
billion. Let that sink in. As of 2026, there's over $300 billion in stablecoins circulating in the global digital economy. And a lot of that was actually driven by regulatory clarity, like the US Genius Act.
But here is the absolute twist, revealed by recent global crypto regulation reports. This whole digital revolution, it isn't defeating the dollar at all. Just look at the data. 99% of global stablecoins are pegged directly to the US dollar. The very technology that was supposedly meant to disrupt the old system is actually actively reinforcing it.
Notice these emerging zones highlighted here on the map. What we're seeing is stablecoins like USDC and UST, which are backed by institutions like Anchorage Digital Bank, acting as de facto digital dollar accounts in emerging markets. For populations dealing with severe local currency volatility, these tokens let them hold and transfer dollar value without ever needing a traditional US bank account. So rather than replacing the US financial system, it's actually extending its influence far beyond traditional banking networks.
As analysts over at PwC so accurately summarized, the dollar's future will hinge less on who issues it and more on the infrastructure it can operate across. Layer 2 blockchain networks aren't replacing the dollar. Actually, scratch that. They're doing the exact opposite. They are digitizing, programming, and amplifying its dominance for the next generation of the internet.
Which brings us to the realization. The ultimate network.
The dollar just isn't powerful because of a single piece of legislation, or one specific president, or where interest rates happen to be. Its power comes from this massive financial matrix. Trade and energy, banking and investment, human trust and habit, and now cutting-edge digital infrastructure. All of these interconnected layers are operating simultaneously, making the network itself the absolute strongest and most unmovable part of the entire global system.
It's quiet. It's incredibly powerful. And it goes mostly unnoticed by ordinary people, just going about their day. Yet this massive financial machine has been running continuously in the background for decades, quietly dictating global wealth and steering the entire direction of international power.
But, as history consistently reminds us, every dominant empire and every supposedly unshakable financial system eventually has to answer one exact question: can it last forever?